Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to part 2 of Cruising Around the World. Now, we did take a little break between parts just because we were dying for the toilet, but we're back now, and we hope you enjoy the second part of this episode. Well, I mean, we've all been through a lovely little piss, and Harry's decided to let another fart out. So we're feeling refreshed. We're back. I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna ask you both. What was your favourite country? Or maybe, do you want to do favourite 2 countries? Just to have a little bit of a...
Can I do 2? Because mine are very... I can't really compare, 2 parts of my country.
Me neither. Yeah. We'll do 2. What were your favourite 2 countries that you visited? Like, you can... When you talk about it, you can, like, elaborate on the areas you got to go as well, because I'm aware that, Joe was in different continents as well, and so you has. So, yeah, just whoever wants to go first... Go for it. Let's hear the countries of the world that you visited.
So I discovered an app when I was on the ship, and I'll talk about it and check it out later on. But it gives me it basically tracked where I was at any time.
Yeah.
And eventually it like creates this map of where you've been. Gives you like a Google Earth image of where you've been. It's so cool. I'll talk about it later and check it out. But I went to 20 different countries. I was so this is where I say I'm lucky and fortunate to have done it. Like, I went to 20 countries, 3 continents, but my favourite places, one of which I've already been to, was Amsterdam. It's just amazing.
Awesome.
It's, honestly, the vibe, the culture, the people are so nice, and going there with your mates, like I was, Michael, Claire and Freya, I'll mention you again, loveliest people ever. Just going out and exploring Amsterdam is just the best feeling ever. And
no weed was smoked?
No, none as well. That's the thing. We're all very good people. but like, we're just honestly just enjoying the place. And there was actually a crew member was like quite a serious Christian and really wanted to see the red light district. So that was something that we did. We took like a really religious person to one of the more interesting and crazy parts of Amsterdam. But yeah, that was an experience. But yeah, Amsterdam...
It's a landmark.
Just honestly, in general, it's just one of the best places ever. I advise everyone to go there. Beautiful. There's so much to learn, so much to see, so much to do.
No.
It's just awesome. But I would say that was my
song.
So much to see, so much to do. My favourite place, though. My favourite.
What is going on?
That was my second, but my favourite. It's a Shrek quote. My favourite.
I know, I get it.
My favourite is definitely Norway, and
okay,
Norway is just. It's like a different planet. Like, honestly, it's mad.
You saw the lights, right?
Yep. Yeah, so saw the lights probably twice a week for the best part of 2 months.
Wow.
That was towards my ship started in Europe, and we did Europe for like half the contract, and then the other half of the contract we were in Norway, basically during their winter, which meant there was 1 hour of sunlight, and that was it every day. And then the rest of the time it was pretty much darkness. The only light you saw was from the cities. But just Norway in general, the lights was like something I'll never forget. But so there's certain parts of Norway. So there's two highlights for me. One of them was Eidfjord. Oh, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's basically just like these fjords, and it's just beautiful, man. Like, even just Google it. Google the place, and it's your ship just goes into this really quiet little, like, almost looks like a lake. And then there's just mountains and hills of forests and like greenery. There's barely any houses. There's barely any cars. There's nothing. It's honestly like, I don't know. It's like another planet. Like, you just can't believe you're there. It's just amazing. And then my other part of Norway for me was definitely Tromsø. Anywhere when it was
I've heard
winter
of that
was
place.
amazing. But Tromsø's just awesome because it was snowing all the time. We saw the Northern Lights most of the time, and I got to like, I actually had like an experience with I don't know, are they a tribe? It's like the Sami people, they're called, and it's like a traditional collective of people that like, you know, from years and years ago, like a traditional tribe, I guess. I might be wrong on that, but they like fed us, they showed us like all these different activities, like we ate a traditional meal, we sat in their home and stuff, and then like we also like we went with like the Huskies, which is obviously my highlight because it's animals, and we got like led around, and we did like, what's that called when the Huskies like take you around? What's that called?
Like a sled. Like a dog sled.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual term.
Wow, come on, Harry. Yeah. I'm just getting so excited.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. Oh, I thought it was some like really high intensive, like some knowledgeable name.
No, this is the other thing. I'm hoping that my fellow cast members listen to this and correct me on all of the shit that I've got wrong. But yeah, honestly, man, Norway it honestly is incredible. When all of this shit is done, when COVID's over and when we've worked out how we can travel to other countries again, go to Amsterdam and go to Norway. That's literally all I'll say. Just do it. It's fucking incredible. It was life-changing, honestly.
That's amazing. That's just like, I haven't been to either, so it's like my country knowledge is terrible. So it's all music to my ears. That's brilliant. That is amazing. What about you, Jay? You've been to Norway as well, haven't you? If you want to touch on that.
Yeah. So I was going to say. So I didn't go to Eidfjord, but I went to Tromsø, and I went to Geiranger and different places and a couple of other places in Norway. But I remember. So when Harry's talking about the hills and stuff, I literally remember calling it. I was like, right, I've got to like record a video and put like the Jurassic Park music over it. Because that's what it reminds me of. When they're like in the helicopter and they're like flying over Jurassic Park and you hear that da 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 da. I was like, yes. I literally feel like I'm going into Jurassic Park, which is like one of my all-time favorite movies. But it was, yeah. No, so I split mine up into two because I did 4 months in the Caribbean and then I did 3.5 in the Baltic, so Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, etc. So I split mine up into those.
The world.
But so the Caribbean, I'd have to say. So a lot of my castmates love to just like go get off the ship, go and sit on a beach and just sunbathe. I'm not about that. I get bored really easily. I did it for a first couple of weeks because like I was one of the only like new hires in my cast, so I just kind of like followed other people's lead in that sense, which isn't really me. So I don't know why I did it, but anyway, and then I was like, nah, fuck this, I'm bored. So then I remember so my favorite place in the Caribbean were, I don't know, there's two. I'd say Aruba and Bonaire. Ooh.
Wow.
On face value, Aruba, you get off and it's just like a great place to just go to like some bars and stuff like that. But not Aruba, sorry, Curacao. I apologize. You get off, you go. There's like this nice little town. You get off at the port at, and there's like loads of like shops and stuff like that, and there's loads of like cool little like restaurants and stuff. So I was like,
this is the Curacao. That's like the blue.
Yeah. So I actually went to like the original factory where they made it. They've got like a little museum there, and I tasted like the pure. I tasted the pure stuff as well. Yeah, I tasted the pure stuff as well, and it is amazing. Like you wouldn't need to mix it. I wouldn't need to mix it because it just tastes phenomenal. I'm
telling you, mate. After what we've seen you do with that drink, you'd need to mix it.
Way too many nights at uni with that.
Valid point. I was going through Zanti pictures the other day and just saw like blue. There's so many pictures of me with my tongue out and it was just bright blue. So do you know what? One time I decided, look, do you know what? I'm not doing this today. So me and one of my other castmates were like, we're gonna go and do some traveling. So got off one day. We're like, hired a car, went to a hotel, pretended I was one of the guests, hired a car, just said a random route. They were like, "What's your room number?" And I just went 502, and I was just hoped that that's what it was. And they were like, I was like, "Oh, it's not sure you haven't got a credit card linked to your account." I was like, "Okay, just take my card." Hired a car and then just drove up to a different part of the island. And then I went cave. I got like to like cave exploring. I'd got to like eat fish that they just caught out of like. So I ate. So there were some fishermen there, and they were like, we went and like go. So I went and like spoke to them and stuff like that, and they were saying, "Oh, have some of our fish. If you take some of our fish, you can take it to the restaurant just there, and they'll cook it for you." So I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
So I just took some of the fish, and they literally were like. So took this fish that the fisherman just gave me that they just got out of literally the sea, and and then they cooked it right in front of us with like some plantain, this amazing sauce which I have no clue what it is, and I'm like a massive fish fanatic, so like fresh fish is amazing. So I got to do that. So that was a highlight for me. I like loved that because I was like. Just the fact of like driving, also it was weird though when I first had the car, I nearly crashed it because I was like, "Fuck," because obviously the wheels on the other side of the car, and it was a manual, so it wasn't like an automatic where you just like it's just gas and brakes. It was a manual, so I had to get used to shifting with my other hand. And it was just completely threw me off. After like 10 minutes, you get used to it. But like we then started going up we went to like this nature park where you have to go up these really narrow like hills, and like if you twist, you fall off the cliff. So like they're like you can't really fuck up. Okay. Luckily they're one way, so like no one can come against you, and no one was there anyway.
Yeah.
So like it was just honestly that was amazing. That was awesome. I love that type of stuff. And then the other place was Bonaire, and then that time was the same with my castmate. I hired like a golf buggy and went around the whole island in like a golf buggy, and like seeing all the stuff, and like they have this like pink ocean, they call it the Pink Sea, and what it is where they harvest salt. So they've got like salt mines in Bonaire, and that's where they get like not Himalayan salt, they get like rock salt from, and they like distribute it all over like America and stuff like that. Well good. But in order to harvest it, they have to grow a certain type of algae, and in order to grow a certain type of algae, they have to get like a certain type of shrimp there. So they have like the certain type of shrimp which makes the sea pink, and then you got like flamingos which are there, we got to see flamingos and stuff. And there's like this really like foamy bit where all the salt is like separating from everything else, and the algae's making like this massive foam, and there's like I was like I want a picture with the foam, so I was like I want to go in the foam, and like there's this massive sign, so I just said to my friend Ashlyn, I was like I'm gonna go in there. She was like, "Joe, there's like a massive sign that says do not enter." I was like, I don't fucking care, I want that picture. So I just jumped over my eggs were very itchy for the rest of the day, so maybe that was why. But anyway, so then there was that, and then so that was awesome, and I just drove around, got to see went to like a surfer beach where they do like paraglide. So like I'd love to go and travel like the little countries like that, because there's loads of stuff that you don't get to see.
And it's not posted everywhere. It's not like done.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what I was going to say. I love that. I don't know if you went there, Joe. Did you go to Dubrovnik?
No, I didn't go to Croatia.
So there's like obviously that's where they filmed Game of Thrones. So I was geeking out over that. Like I was like, this is amazing. And literally stood on the shame steps, all of that stuff. But there is the best part of that experience. The best part of that experience was there's like a tiny little door. Like we wouldn't have found it if we weren't just walking down this random back alley. There's a tiny little door, and we could see some light coming from it, and we were like, okay, let's just have a peek around the corner. And you go out, and it's literally like open ocean on the edge of the island. Like you're sitting on the rocks, like the castle old wall is behind you, and then you're just seeing this like clear blue ocean. That was really hot.
All of
Westeros.
It was
boiling hot. Yeah, looking out at Westeros. Oh, mate.
Wow.
Like, but that's exact. I'm glad you said it. That's the best thing I could tell anyone that's, obviously right now no one is, but as soon as you're performing on a ship or even just going traveling, go and explore on your own. Yes, have tour guides and do the excursions and try and find your own way, but go and try and find your own stuff, even if you have to do a little Google, like secret places in da-da-da.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Because
That's what I did.
The best experience is finding those like moments, because those are the moments that stick in your head more than anything else.
I agree. Completely agree. That would be, traveling wise, that's the best thing you could ever do. Just because, obviously, when you do work on the ship, obviously it all depends how long your cruises are. So I was very, very, very lucky and fortunate in the fact that my cruises were like 11, 12 days. So I would have like, I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but I would have like 5 days where I didn't work at all. I just literally was getting paid to do fuck all. But whereas like one of my housemates, he did 3 and 4 day cruises, so he worked every day,
back to back.
So he's like bam, 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 bam. Whereas I'm like, it's chill, like the whole time really. And like, yes, you have to do a lot of work, and sometimes there'll be times like I'm working, I've got a set at the end. I can't go out, and everyone can go out and like have a couple of drinks and stuff like that. I'm like, oh no, I've got a set tonight, so I can't really drink tonight. But like, honestly, it's just, I did like kind of was very fortunate in the sense, I forgot where I was going with that then. I was very fortunate in the fact that I got to go and explore loads of different places and stuff like that. And obviously but then it obviously depends on like, there's like little things like that you won't know if you've never been on a ship. There's like sail away time, so you have to be on the ship like an hour before that your ship leaves, just because that's just the because otherwise you get left behind, and so many crew members get left behind, and if you get left behind, you have to find your way to the next port.
I thought about this though. Like, what happens if you just left your passport on the ship? Like, are you just gonna you have to get deported from?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like, if you I don't know if you're taking your passport or whatever. Like, do you have to bring that with you everywhere? Like, do you know what I mean? If you left it, how would you feasibly fly?
Certain places you have to take. Certain places you'll have to take it. So like certainly. So when you have to go to so we went to Russia as well. So in Russia you have to take your passport because you'll go through border control, and then you have to, and then people will stop. People can stop you and be like, we need to see your passport. Whereas when you go to some places like in the Caribbean, you don't necessarily have to take it with you. Like I wouldn't take it because of the fear, because I lose my balls if they weren't in a bag. So like I make sure I don't take shit out of me if I don't need it.
Oh God, that's the best thing
I
said.
I hope they're attached to something. But
I've known Joe for how many years? That's easily the best thing he's ever fucking said.
But anyway, I'll move on to the next the next half of we did like a crossing from Fort Lauderdale, so Florida, where we were, and then crossed all the way to Europe and to the Baltic. So we ended up in Copenhagen. So like we stopped off at a few places there. I also blew the worst bout of seasickness on the way, but and generally I was quite lucky overall. But there was one day I was like, no way. I was like laying on the floor because I felt that ill. I was done. I was out like a light. I was like in medical, took a handful of seasickness pills, literally popped them like Tic Tacs, and I was like, I cannot deal with this shit anymore. It's the worst feeling in the world. But it's like, it doesn't really happen that often. And also shows get cancelled. Yeah, you do get used to it. Like mine was, it was because it'd been so calm before then. I was like not used. We literally went from like really still waters to like, and I was like,
where were you sleeping? What floor were you on?
So, I have no clue, dude. I could not remember that.
So we were at the very top, so we felt everything.
So I was at right at the front of the ship. So I felt so we did hit the waves first. So we did feel the effects of it. But like, I wasn't at the top. I wasn't at the top though. I don't know what you mean by that. Do you mean like deck? What deck were you on?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I have no clue. I think I was like deck 3 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
when you said floor, I was like, why are you sleeping on the floor?
No. The reason
because if you sleep, because it really stabilizes you.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the higher up you are on in the ship, the more you're going to feel it. So if you're like say the guests are sleeping on deck 2 and there's like 10 decks, they're not going to feel the waves as much, and they're not going to get the seasickness as much as the people that are all the way at the top. So that's why I was asking, because we were at the very top. So every night when it was
no,
rocky, we were the ones that suffered the most.
I don't know. See, crew quarters for us are like all like deck 2 and 3. Like apart from like if you're like really high up in management and stuff. But no, ours is like right at the bottom. But yeah, so that was that. But like Baltic wise, I agree with Harry in the sense of Norway was amazing. Like I loved it. Like, had the best like hiking all the time, seeing all these amazing views. And I got to go to like the husky farm, so like meet all went like over 100 huskies. Saw like the puppy huskies
like
and stuff like
crazy.
that. They literally were going mental. $1 and the rest of them go mental. I just got to spend like a day, like 2 hours going around hugging like 100 different dogs. It was amazing.
It's awesome.
And then it was just like honestly, my day was made. So Norway is amazing. Great. If I could travel anywhere like I've been, I would literally grab a backpack, fill it with a load of shit, like hiking stuff, and just go around Norway. I'd spend like a couple of weeks going around like different spots in Norway. The only flaw with Norway I find very expensive. Like very expensive.
Yeah.
Like a beer is like £7 equivalent.
I mean, did you both go at different times? Like in terms of like the year, did you both go in? Did
so I went in June. I went like May, June time. So it was like I didn't really have a winter for a year, which was great. But you went right at the peak of winter, didn't you, Haz?
Yeah. Pretty much everywhere was wintertime because we got on the ship in August, but we went to Norway, and Norway, especially Bergen, I think is quite famous for just being rainy all the time. So it was pretty much it was cold when we got there, which was fine. And then I think we had about 3 days where we went to Africa one day, and then we were in Spain for 2 days, and it was really hot. For 3 days we were wearing shorts and like vests and stuff, and then the rest of the time for my entire ship we pretty much were in winter. And like by the time we got to the second half, when we were going to Norway properly, like as in deep north Norway, we were like buying extra coats, massive boots, anything to keep warm. Like it was just full on snow the whole time. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's cool to do two different experiences on the same place there, do you know what I mean? Like,
and we did it almost opposite. So like I was in Europe when Joe was in, or like, because I know we weren't completely lined up in terms of like being on the ship at the same time, but like I'd be in Europe, Joe was in the Caribbean, and then we literally just swapped. Because I remember halfway through my contract texting Joe saying, "Oh, I'm moving from Europe now. I'm going up to Norway and staying up there," and he was just like, "Oh my god, I'm literally moving over to Europe right now." It's like this weird transition.
It was weird. And then my other place in the Baltic is my favourite city is Stockholm. And I'll tell you why. So Stockholm's based on like 2 different like 4. I think it's 2 or 4 different islands, and the whole city is like an island, and each island has like a completely different vibe. There's like this really like oldie worldy like medieval kind of like town with like cobbled streets and stuff vibe. Then you go to like another part. I don't know what they're all called, so don't even ask me. Then they went to another place which is like called the Green Island, which is near where the ABBA museum is. And they have another part of the island which is where which is like a kind of edgy kind of like Soho-y kind of vibe, which I loved. Like the fashion is awesome. They have like really cool like I went to so many like furniture stores, and I was like, I really want to buy all this stuff. I really want to buy all this shit. Like I was like, there's like, I remember I was this armchair. I was like, can I bring this back? I was like, if I had a single share, if I had a single cabin, I'd buy this armchair and bring it back with me because I wanted it that much. Like there was so much stuff. Like it was amazing. And then I can't remember what the other island was, but it's awesome. And the best part of it is that they had those little like scooter things. So you know that everyone's got the electric scooters now. Way behind the curve, my friend. Way behind the curve. I was doing that stuff like 2 years ago, in Stockholm. Although, wouldn't advise the electric scooters on the cobbled streets. Not a good idea. definitely 100% went flying over the handlebars at one point. And I was like, because I had like my phone like in my hand, trying to look at the map, and I was like on this like. And I was on this cobble street, and I was like, and the next thing I know, I look at the map, and I'm like, oh fuck, I've gone the wrong way. Go to turn, I go, boom, completely over the handlebars, flip onto my face, and everyone around me is just going, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, and like, I'm fine, but I'm like, I look like a right tit right
Sounds
now.
like a cartoon.
It literally was like I flipped. I must have. It's like, oh, it was bad. It was well bad. But yeah, those are my two places. Those are my like.
Speaking of
places.
Mishaps, I forgot to mention this, and all 4 of us cast members, when we got on the ship, boys, we got infected with GI. Now, so cruise ships, unfortunately, are like a breeding ground for viruses. So if someone gets a cold and they haven't noticed that they've got it, more than likely most of the ship is going to get the cold. Like, that's the way it works, because you're in such a confined space, whatever. We got on thinking that we were all feeling a bit queasy because it was seasickness, but the ship hadn't moved and we were all throwing our guts up.
Lovely.
We were in a rehearsal, and I'm sorry, Michael, but I'm gonna do this to you. We were in a rehearsal. We were singing through our entire like rep for the shows and stuff, and then Mike just puts his hand up and goes, "I'm really sorry. I need to excuse myself. I need to go to the toilet." Turns around and just hurls like completely projectile vomits all over the rehearsal space. And then we were like, oh shit, like he's not well. So he went to the medical and like basically got diagnosed with GI and stuff, and you know had to isolate because obviously he was like infected. And then we thought, what are we gonna do? Like, right, we'll break, we'll go to dinner, and then you know we'll just go and rehearse on our own, like in our cabins and stuff. Get back to our cabins, and I'm sitting on the toilet throwing my guts up.
God.
Then one of the other girls is throwing her guts up. So there's actually only one cast member left to rehearse the next day. I get put into full-on isolation for 3 days in hospital, like on board. So like this is just before. So I think we had 2 weeks or like a week and a half before the first show had to go live. So you get on the ship and you've got a little bit of like rehearsal period in venue whilst all the guests are off, where you have to nail the shows, get them ready to go live as soon as possible. And we weren't rehearsing. We were just ill for 3 or 4 days, like just completely wiped out. It was horrendous. But I lost a lot of weight, so, you know, pros and cons.
Win-win.
Harry's just casually promoting bulimia there.
No.
We're not. That's a serious illness. He's not promoting bulimia. Like,
No,
it's
I'm not
a serious
at all.
illness.
And I don't advise getting GI. Don't get infected. Don't do anything like that. Oh, God.
It's funny you say that, though. I just want to...
Why do we have to cover ourselves like that?
But in all seriousness though, it's a cruise ship. They handle people when people are ill. Well, certainly my experience, when people are ill, very well. Like they're on it in the sense of there's no dithering, there's no with it. Not referring to anyone there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But there's they're really on it. So like as soon as someone like. And it's really bad if you don't like. They literally have a whole meeting about it, like with guests before, like saying if you feel any of these symptoms, you must go to medical. They have to wash your hands. Yeah, you have to wash your hands before you like. People will stand at the doors and literally squirt sanitizer in your hands. They're on it and like it. Ironically, because obviously with what's going on at the moment, and we're talking about cruise ships, and then. The thought is, it's like when people think with gyms and stuff like that, when we're like, oh, they're the worst places. But ironically, they've already had that set up there, for ages, for ages because of stuff like GI and stuff. And they're already really on it with that type of stuff. So anyone that's like listening to this and's like, ooh. But I won't be going on a cruise ship when they come back because of coronavirus. I'm telling you now, those companies will be on it with that because they already were on it before. Like everything that we've got in place here now, they've already got that now, and imagine when they add to that It's like
Yeah, it's
they'll be
only
the
gonna
most
be
kitted
better.
out play. They'll be more kitted out than anyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean they got to do that as well when you know that you're all going to be in one place, traveling together for a long time. It's got to be the number one priority of your
100%.
physical
Oh yeah,
and mental health. Like it can't,
100%.
you can't sit back on that. But like, I know what you mean though, Joe. Like there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of sort of dabbling, if you like, where like, oh, how you feeling? You're right. It's like just get on with it. We need to know.
Yeah,
now. If
yeah,
you're
yeah.
too ill, you're
Yeah.
off the ship. Like,
Well, I
mean?
don't know what it's like for other companies, but certainly for Royal, you can. I don't know anyone that it's happened to, but they tell us you can get fired if you, as a crew member, do not tell us that you have symptoms of GI and you have like so what happened to Michael. If a lot of other people would have, like the company would, he'd probably get disciplinary for Royal because they take
so
it
that's
so.
what they
If
said.
you have any symptoms,
So as soon as Michael, obviously, it was obvious that he was ill because we were there with like all the directors and stuff.
we saw it.
And they knew that because he'd been ill, they were like, right, he has to isolate. Yep, fair enough. And then they would check up on all of us constantly, like every half an hour. That night, it literally was like one after the other we were getting ill. But yeah, like I was getting texts through like every half an hour going, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Like constantly. And then obviously within half an hour, I
they
was
take
throwing my
it
guts
very
up, so-
seriously. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Not
crazy.
ideal. Not ideal.
I mean, it looks like you've had a sick time, so I think we'll move on to our final part. This, I mean, we've kind of touched on like advice, like over what we've been talking about today, but like, are there any big pieces of advice that you both could give to anyone that is wanting to do a job on a cruise, or has a job on a cruise waiting and hasn't done one yet? Is there any big advice you can give to those people for things to look out for and things to just to be aware of to have the best time?
Yeah, I think something we haven't really talked about, and it's very important. It's talked about a lot more in general life now, but I think it's personally so important on cruise ships. Whilst we're talking about all the highlights and things that are amazing, there are sometimes working on a ship is just not for you. And that's because it can be quite an isolating place. You are stuck on a ship in a certain place and I'm not trying to scare people off because I had the most amazing time and the most amazing experiences. But I did at points struggle with my own mental health. And I felt very lonely and very isolated. And that my casts were amazing and like I really got on with them. But I didn't have in my cast someone that was like these two boys. Like I didn't have like any. I didn't have someone like that I really clicked with like that. I really got on with everyone, but I just didn't have that person that I feel like I could really open up to. And
Yeah.
And that can be hard, and there's a lot of stuff happened. Certainly from when I was on my ship, so stuff happened on other ships where people really, really, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but sadly committed suicide, and it's really awful. And I remember my mum waking up one day, hearing that an English boy had committed suicide on a Royal Caribbean ship, and she didn't. And that's all she heard on the radio. So obviously then she starts shitting herself, basically. And I don't have internet on the ship. So anyway, that's not the story I want to talk about. But my point is it can be really isolating. So, but if you do go on a cruise ship and you're not having a great time, you're feeling a bit shit, you're feeling a bit low, you don't feel really lonely, they do have, I know certainly for Royal, and I know other companies do have it, a really great support network for you to talk to about mental health. It's because it is such an isolating place.
Vital.
And it's really, but like I remember on Christmas Day, I cried because Christmas is a massive thing for me and my family, and I cried because it's the first Christmas it's not the first Christmas I've not been at home, but it's the first Christmas I have not spoke to my mum, and I was on a ship with loads of no other English people, and Christmas isn't the same in the US. They take Thanksgiving a lot more seriously than Christmas. Well, certainly from my experiences, and my castmates did anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal to me, Christmas. and it just was like it just didn't feel like, and I felt shit, real low, and my advice would be, talk to people. They have amazing services on on the ships. Use them. They are there for a reason. I'm not trying to say anything about mental health because I'm not qualified. I only have my experiences of mental health, and that's it. But yeah, it's really important. Cruise ships are amazing, and you'll have an amazing time seeing amazing places, and the shows are really amazing. And live performing on a cruise ship is absolutely amazing. You'll probably make friends for life on those ships. However, it's kind of like university on a ship, basically, but more intense. But yeah, it's something you just need to be open to talking about on a ship, but just because. And if it's not for you, the worst thing that's going to happen is you come home. They're not going to reprimand you for it. They are very companies are very understanding about it. They're not going to be like, no, you can't leave. If you want to leave, you leave.
Oh yeah, and that's the best thing to do. Is if you are just really not feeling it, just don't put yourself. You cannot put yourself through. Was it like you said, 10 months up to? That. You can't if you're not going to be. If you just aren't. If it's not for you, it's not for
completely.
You.
Because at points you're in the middle of the ocean with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, ships are huge because you can go to the gym, you can go talk to your castmates, and like you can go other places on the ship. You can go to like the canteen. You can go. They have like crew bar and crew messes and stuff like that. And so there's places you can go, of course. But there are those places. It's like being in lockdown. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, but like you're not as restricted. I don't want to make this sound really bad, but all I'm trying to say is. Because I had the most amazing experience, and I know so many people who've had amazing experiences, but I just know that it can be an isolating and lonely place if
100%
you don't talk.
And I think that it kind of leads into my one, to be honest. Like in that Joe's literally said it. There's moments that you have to be aware of, and you have to like check in with yourself and be honest with yourself and how you're feeling. But on the other side, you're seeing shit that 99% of the world will never see. There are moments where you are in the middle of the ocean and you will be on the top deck looking around going, fuck me. It's like I'm in Avatar or something. There is no one, there's nothing. It's just this shit. Yeah. So it almost becomes like a bubble. And whilst that, I 100% agree, it can be isolating and scary because you're not talking to your family and your friends from home all the time or whatever. On the other side, it builds relationships for life. Like the castmates I have, and I'm sure Joe's in the same situation, they are best friends for life. Honestly, like I can go without talking to them for a week and then it will pop up and we'll all just be reminiscing. Ever since we've left that job, when something comes up on Facebook or on our phones, like a throwback memory, like a time hop or whatever, we put it in the chat, and it's been that way for 2 years, and it won't stop. Like literally all the time. I think even the other day, someone sent a photo of us in the snow, like, do you know what I mean? It's just constant, and like that would be my bit of advice: is embrace your cast, embrace the crew, because they become your family, especially for the time on there. But it can go beyond that. And then my other bit of advice would be embrace your travels. Like go out there. Take extra cameras, take extra memory for your phone or whatever, like just document and experience as much as you can, because sometimes there'll be days where you're like, do I really have to go out there and explore? But it's the best thing for your brain, honestly, to go out there and just see something, even if it's to just go to a coffee shop and just watch what, like, I don't know, what the Norwegian life is like. Just do it. Honestly, I learned so much about other cultures, but also about myself and about the people I was with as well. It's just amazing. Honestly, you'll love it. Go do it.
I do have one more actually. It's quite important. I think you have to remember, a lot of people on a cruise. So it doesn't really go normally for castmates. So castmates you can kind of like exclude, but certainly for when like you've got to remember, ship life is kind of like a bubble. And when you get off the ship, people may not be who they say they are. So relationships on a ship can be very troubling. I know a lot of people that got in relationships on ships, with people that they didn't know, that people were already on the ship from different countries and stuff like that, and then they've ended up being the people they got off the ship and they expect this relationship to carry on, and they find out that the person is married that they've been with for the last 6 months. Like, I know that's happened to so many people, like so many people.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, just whilst you can make amazing relationships on the ship, be careful. Some people kind of lie there. You can't really do it with castmates because you'll know your castmates from rehearsals and stuff like that, so you'll kind of know who they are. But like, there's people on the ship that won't be who they say they are, and they will be on that ship, and they will take advantage of you not knowing who they really are.
But the other
aware.
argument on that is get to know your crew a little bit, because I became friends, and so did Michael, with a guy that owned like 4 different barbershops in the Philippines, and he was so good. So we'd be on the bottom deck of this gigantic ship, and he's like giving us skin fades like while we're in the middle of the ocean rocking. But he was amazing. So good.
Oh,
Obviously,
completely.
be aware of who you're like sort of interacting with. You never know what's going to happen, all of that stuff. But like, we're not saying don't go and engage with people, because that's
no.
Wouldn't.
I've got so many friends now. Like, Harry's completely right there. I've got so many friends from so many different countries. It's amazing. Like, I had the same. There was a Filipino guy that used to cut my hair because I was like, I'm not paying for the spa prices to cut my hair. I used to literally be on like bottom deck in this, surrounded by this like carpet in this place, because he was one of the carpenters. He used to give me like the sickest fade I've ever had in my life, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
And his mirror's like, I remember going on mirror, like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember this guy had like one little like hanging mirror, and like when the ship was rocking, was like the fucking mirror would swing as he's trying to cut my hair. Like, this guy's a genius. And I remember like all the time we used to live right by the carpentry plate, the carpentry I don't know what it is, carpentry studio, whatever. And like they'd have like the Filipino parties that basically Filipinos are like the best nation ever. And like the nicest people. Like, I know I'm generalizing, but like they're like the nicest people I've ever met in my life. That the collective as a nation, every Filipino is awesome. But honestly, we used to go to the Filipino parties, and they used to cook us the Filipino, like authentic Filipino food, because those of them would be the chefs on the ship, and like they play with like live bands, you play like karaoke, and it, like awesome. And then one of our castmates was Jamaican, so I used to go to the Jamaican parties and all the time, and that was awesome. It's like,
I'd find
those
the
type of
crew
things,
were
I'm saying.
multi-talented. Like, if they were a chef. If they were working as a chef, they could also be part of the carpentry, but also be able to sing or play guitar. Like everyone had so many different like talents, and you would only know that by going and like seeing these parties, or going to the crew bar, or even when you're off the ship, like you might be off, like say I'm off with the cast, just walking around, wandering around, but then we'd see like all of the crew going to a shop, and we'd go in there and be like, why are you in here? They're so experienced because that's their actual like full-time job, so they would teach you things about each country, why you'd go to this place, where you should go. Like, honestly, man, like, yes, 100% be aware, and like you are in a bubble, so you don't want to, you've got to be aware of what life is going to be like after the ship, but definitely embrace people and the cultures and everything as well. Like, you've got to experience to understand what you're getting in for.
I think I'm talking more about sexual relationships, I won't lie. As in, like, I'm talking about like the nitty gritty. Like,
I gathered earlier.
Yeah, I didn't like the overall experience. Go and embrace, go to the parties, go to experience all the different cultures, because a ship can be like the world on a ship, people from different countries and different cultures, and you can embrace all of those, and it's and that's insanely amazing. Like, I remember there was Chinese New Year on the ship, and it was amazing.
So good.
The Super Bowl on the ship was amazing. Like, I remember the Indian Independence Day was amazing. The Filipino Independence Day was amazing. Like, I'm saying these days I didn't even know were things, because classic Britain. But
yeah, literally.
they were amazing. Like, those culture things. That's what I'm like, dive in. I'm just saying, like, be careful who you jump into bed with and who you're who you think you're in a long-term relationship. I'm not saying from my experience. This isn't from my experience. This is from my friends' experiences. Because who you think you're in a relationship with may not be.
Yeah, who you think they are.
May not be who you think they are.
Another one that I'd maybe say is that sometimes, because the crew would often have to be back before the guests, because you have jobs to do or whatever, when you're exploring, sometimes you might only get 2 to 3 hours off the ship, and you might feel that that's not enough, and you almost only get a taster of that location or that country. But instead of looking at that as a negative, I've taken that as, I've got a list of places where I visited on the ship, but I didn't get to fully explore. I felt like I didn't get enough out of it. So I've got a list of places that in my life, it's almost like a bucket list of ticking off these different locations. And whilst cruising is amazing and you almost feel like you're traveling anyway, it almost inspired me to do it more. And it makes me want to go back. It makes me want to do these different things, like take different people and show them what I've seen, see if they get the same feel. So like, it is one of the most eye-opening experiences ever. I wouldn't knock it until you've tried it. I think we've said that about any career path, but especially in our industry, I think we've all said it. We would say yes to a job, and that way you know whether you're going to love it or hate it, or like, you know, what you'll get out of that you might be able to apply to a different job. So I think that's, especially for our first jobs, we just went in and fully embraced every moment, because we were like, this is going to teach us whether we want to do this or whether we like this or whether we want to go down a different path. So that's something that you'll learn from that as well, I think. That's more to like graduates, I guess, than anyone else. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's just making me jealous. Right, to see the world. Wow. Like, it's so, but this is the thing, like, this is why we've, like, I'll just finish it off with this. Like, this is why we created this podcast, just because, like, we have talked about this probably, you know, a few times, but we've never gone into this much detail, like, about, like, there's so much stuff I didn't know about what you guys did, because there is just so much. Like, when do you get the time to properly talk about it, unless you're, you know, sat at a pub or out and, you know, whatever. Like, this is just one of the reasons why we made this platform, and it's like a great insight into what we do, hopefully, for the listener.
And I'm sure there'll be more episodes where we cover it, or we'll go into a different story or different jobs that maybe one of us has done. I'm sure that there'll be more of those in the future. I think it's literally like a slight glimpse into what we experienced, isn't it? And I'm sure, like, if we'll do the same for Cody with his jobs, and it will just be like a little glimpse into it. I'm sure we'll cover much more in the future.
Check it out.
Since we're in a kind of check it out section, do you want to just like reel off anything you got to check out for the listener this podcast, this episode?
Well, I mean, I was rambling, so I'll just finish off. I said it earlier. There's an app specifically for travellers, but I used it on the cruise ship, and I used it for my second job in Ibiza as well. There's an app called Polar Steps, and it you can sort of input locations as to where you are on that day. So I did it for the whole of the ship. Literally day by day, when I arrived in port, say in Algeria, I wrote, I'm in Algeria, and then the phone would pick it up, and then it would ask for a photo. So I'd go outside and take a photo of where I was, and it would save it and document it. And I'm showing the boys now, but it almost creates like a world map of all of your photos.
Wow.
And you can also
well
make
cool.
Yeah, and you can also make notes of like where you were, so like what you did on that day. So the day I went dog sledding with the Huskies, I've written that in and taken a photo with me, like selfie mode. But literally you can scroll through, and it just shows you. It literally takes you around the map, and then at the end of it, if you wanted, you can like order a photo album of your entire experience. But the reason I like it is because it gives you statistics. So I've got stats. I've got 20 countries visited. I've seen, well, this is give or take, I've seen 10% of the world in terms of countries and continents and stuff, just on 2 trips that I've put in here. And then it shows you all the different flags that you've collected, like where you've been, how many different locations in those countries you visited and stuff. My furthest place from home is actually in Israel. We went to a place called Ashdod on the ship, and that's 2,200 miles away. So like, it showed me how far away from home I was on that day and stuff.
Wow.
And it also, quite depressingly, tells me how long it's been since I last put a travel step in this. and it's been way too long, over 700 days. So cheers, COVID. But but honestly, yeah, I would check it out. You can even go back. So I told my brother about it, and he went back and put like his honeymoon on there. And like you can just go back, back through your photos, and it will tell you where you were. Like iPhones are so good these days, and so is any other smartphone. It documents where you took that photo, what country, and what date. You could literally take that information, put it in this app, and it will create the map for you. It's so good, really cool. And it's like I said with the storytelling and the writing down your essays or whatever. That's another way of doing it. Is writing down your traveling is super cool. I'd recommend that.
Shout out the 1+, 2+5.
I get bullied for my phone, guys.
That's Harry's phone. Harry's phone.
The 1+, 2+7. What was it called again?
My current phone is the OnePlus 6T. All right.
What a shit name.
I'm not part of the Apple cult, all right? I'm not part of that.
I'm not part of the Matrix. I'm saying that 579.
I'm saying that while staring at my webcam on my MacBook Air, but that's fine.
Bye.
Have you got to check it out, Yosef?
I'm just gonna check it out. I share him a lot on Instagram. James Smith podcast. He's controversial. You may not like him. I like him because he's no bullshit. He's got a lot of good people on there. Yeah, he's very real, very to the point. He is one of those people he's kind of like Marmite. You may love him, you may hate him. But what he does do is he has people on his podcast that aren't necessarily the same as him, and he won't necessarily just agree with him. I think he's just had Example on, and I haven't listened to that one yet. I'm excited to listen to that one tomorrow. And then I listened to one today with a guy called Dr. Mike II. You probably see him on Instagram. But it is whilst he is a little bit of fitness related, he does talk about other stuff like loads of different things. He talks to loads of different people. Talk to someone, Isaac Mitchell. Someone is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. He talks to loads of different people, and I just think it's really funny. So yeah, check it out.
That's awesome, man.
What about you, Coach?
I'm loving this positivity.
Yeah,
is great.
Unfortunately, because this podcast was kind of directed at cruise ships, we haven't heard a lot of Cody today. So, Codes,
that was the point. That was the point, though.
I know. But bring the thunder. What are we checking out?
We basically got feedback saying that Cody was a fucking dickhead, and we wanted to hear less of him. So that's why.
Cody's talking too much, or his voice is too low. We can't understand what he's saying. Mine's good as well. It's. I also mentioned it to the boys off the podcast. It was this Twitter page called Coronavirus Good News, and obviously it's a topical thing to be talking about right now because we're still in the pandemic. But you do find on the news it's mainly negative bullcrap, and they love to leave the positive stuff for the fourth sort of news they read out, which is infuriating for someone who I like to see the hope in life, so it's nice to know something's going well. But this Twitter page called Coronavirus Good News, they just tweet basically anything good that has happened with the virus. So, for instance, there's a tweet that came out yesterday saying, for example, deaths are down 25%. And it's just little things like that just, if you are someone who does get their news from Twitter and other things alike, just seeing that can just give you just a bit of a lift that you need, because like we've all talked about and touched on many times, it's a lot of stuff you see as negative and negativity, and how we have to wear masks for 3 years and all this. So it's just seeing that is a great way to boost yourself, basically. So check that out. Coronavirus Good News.
I'm looking at it now. It's very good. I didn't know about this until real. Just now, real. So I'm definitely going to follow this.
Yeah, it's all real stuff. It's all stats, and it's unfortunately the stuff that gets hidden or not pushed for the first thing. Because unfortunately, we've got to be scaremongered into obviously doing what we're told, which is the right thing. But it is good to hear what's good news out there. So So to end on that good note, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, sharing all the amazing places that you've been to and your experiences. I think this is probably going to be a 2-part episode. Hope this is going to be the second part. Just because it gives us something different. It gives you, the listener, something different as well. Like you can have two different sides to, have a break from listening to us a bit, I guess.
Yeah, we do talk a lot.
Yeah, we do ramble a lot. But I mean, I guess all of it's not my bad. I'll say it's both of your bad.
We all know it's me.
But I mean, signing out. Obviously, I mean, we've actually just created. I hopefully would have put it in the first part as well. We've got a page called Ko-fi, which is a page where you can donate the same amount as a coffee. Basically, it's pronounced coffee, but it's spelled Ko-fi. And it's where you can donate any small change that you have, and it basically helps us with any of the editing softwares that we have to try and afford, and any of the little things we need to keep this podcast going. For our microphone, software, little things like that. So don't feel obliged to have to give us anything. I'm not asking. It's just,
no, we're not.
If you do have any spare
money.
Change, yeah, it's just we're just if you've got any spare change and want to help keep the podcast going, our Ko-fi page or coffee page is in the link on our Instagram page at the 3am Chats podcast. But yeah, I think that's pretty much summed it up. Like I said before, guys, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. It's been awesome. Cruise life is real, and we shall see you very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Big love
for
to
listening.
everyone.
Set sail, people.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.